Sorry, Cordy, are we calling you Cordy or Cordelia?
Oh, call me Cordy, yeah. Only my mum calls me Cordelia.
Hello and welcome to USA 2024 On the Road with me, James Matthews.
Me, Cordelia Lynch.
And me, Mark Stone.
I'm going early to make sure my vote counts and that it's done and it's completed and it's in there.
Tick, 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 Trump, Trump, Trump.
Yeah, that's right.
I can't do another 4 years of crazy.
Everybody was out there. It didn't matter. Black, white, candy stripe.
I'm sure you take $1 million.
I will. That's right.
I think I messed up.
Cordy, welcome to the podcast and welcome back to the United States. You're a former US correspondent, of course.
Yeah, it is great to be back. You guys have been doing a top job, so thank you for having me back on US soil.
Of course, what you do is elevate the personnel. You are Sky News's highest sporting achiever. Mark, do you know why that is?
I don't know.
Cordy, do you want to tell us?
Is this basketball or is this...
You played basketball for England. Tell me that wasn't a lie.
I did not know this.
And of course, the other sporting question is, which Sky News on-air icon played for Nottingham Forest?
Ooh, I have absolutely no idea.
I know the answer to this one.
Oh, don't tell us. Mark, hold the answer until the end of part one. Let's leave that as a tease bubbling away.
Gosh, that's going to be a massive distraction now.
I won't disappoint you, trust me. Anyway, but to the politics. Cordy, where are you right now?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and we're expecting Kamala Harris to take to the stage for a rally in her final push of the campaign shortly.
Great stuff. We'll come back to you for more on that in a bit. But Mark, there's somebody we've been wanting to talk more about on the podcast for a while.
Yeah, I coined him a Trumpian Willy Wonka last week, and his name is Elon Musk. You may have heard of him. Willy Wonka, because when we arrived in a town in Pennsylvania last week, a town called Lancaster, there was a bit of excitement around town. There was a queue out of the door of the poshest hotel in town, or a line, as I should say, out here. And they were all there for one reason, Elon Musk. And I kind of got the sort of Roald Dahl, Willy Wonka, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory excitement about this slightly eccentric character who was coming to this small town and was going to give away not a golden ticket, but $1 million. There's obviously more to it than that, but it is really clear that Elon Musk is trying to have quite a profound impact on this election.
Yeah, this is a guy who has power. He has wealth. He is a rich man with muscle.
Look, I think, the wealthy, the celebrities, media moguls have for a long time been deployed by both sides in American politics to boost campaigns. But I think the difference with this is that never has a singularly powerful man inserted himself into a campaign quite like this. And Elon Musk has genuinely emerged as one of the most high-profile backers of Donald Trump. At times over the course of the past month or so, I've sort of thought it's almost the Trump-Musk ticket instead of the Trump-Vance ticket, because Musk has been a much, much more visible surrogate for Trump than J.D. Vance has been. It's been remarkable. And remember, he's the richest man in the world. He's worth an estimated $250 billion.
I suppose there is the bigger question about what are the checks on the power that his wealth gives him? To what extent can that be compromised by involvement with and influence over the occupant of the White House? He is astute, Musk, in most of his business choices, certainly. And, there has to be a reason why he is throwing money at the Trump campaign. What's in it for him is the question.
You're right. What is in it for Trump? Well, money, because he is plowing a lot of money into the Trump campaign now. What is in it for Musk? We're not quite sure, but certainly influence. There is a suggestion that he could play a very pivotal role in a second Trump White House. Trump has talked about him having a role overhauling government, making government more efficient, firing many federal employees and putting in place people who are much more aligned with a conservative form of government that Trump would run. And into that comes Elon Musk, perhaps overseeing this overhaul. But then that raises the questions of how that would benefit him. And there's certainly a suggestion that he could overhaul regulations on social media companies. He is clearly the owner of a very, very powerful social media company, Twitter, now X. The other question is tax breaks that he could get. Elon Musk, if he was to serve in the White House, would have to divest his ownership of many of his companies, whether it be SpaceX or Twitter, because of their links to government. And if he was to do that, he would get tax breaks on that divestment. So there's a lot there that actually I don't think people have really got quite enough time to actually delve into it and see what the implications of Musk in the White House would be. But there's a lot to think about for sure.
Take us inside one of these $1 million giveaways, Mark. You were there. Willy Wonka, you said, I take it you were Mike TV in that scenario. I'd be the guy eating all the chocolate. Anyway, but listen, tell us about it.
Well, as I said, we saw the queue outside the Marriott Hotel in Lancaster. A lot of people very excited. I asked them why they were there. Was it for Trump? Was it for Musk? Or was it for the $1 million?
Tell me your name first of all.
My name's Jennifer.
And what's drawn you here? Musk, Trump, both?
Well, because Elon is here for Trump, really.
You know, one of the things that strikes me as someone not from America that is kind of weird is that Trump is all about draining the swamp, about getting rid of the establishment, getting rid of the elite.
Sure.
And yet he's got the world's richest man coming here.
He does. But I would say Elon doesn't behave, act like the world's richest man. I think he invests.
Really?
I don't. I think he invests a lot of his money into making us a better country.
And what about the $1 million?
Well, that helps. $1 million always helps. I'm sure you'd take $1 million.
I would.
That's right.
How about you, sir? Are you excited about tonight?
Yes, it's about inflation, border security, and I'm really hoping to hear that Musk is going to say that he's going to take over efficiency of the government.
Do you think that's a good idea, the world's richest man to be involved in the White House?
Absolutely. He took over Twitter and got rid of 80% of the employees, and it's still running great.
Well, is it?
Yes.
Some people call it a sewer.
I think it's great.
Is it Trump, is it Musk, or is it both?
Both.
Why?
Because I want to see a better America. I want lower grocery prices. I want lower fuel. I want people to afford things again. And I want to stop immigration and crime. So build the wall.
Tick, tick, tick. Trump, Trump, Trump.
Yeah, that's right.
How are you?
Great.
Are you here in your Cybertruck to see Elon?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Are you supporting Trump?
I'm supporting Trump and Elon. Absolutely. Yeah, they're great for our country and for our future.
I should explain what this $1 million lottery is actually all about, because what Musk has been doing is touring the battleground states, the swing states, and he's been holding town hall meetings. You know, he's a celebrity in his own right. Plenty of people are really keen to hear his views on lots of things. And so these town hall meetings generate quite a lot of interest. But in order to generate even more interest and perhaps encourage people to vote early, he has been offering $1 million to random people selected. And the only catch is they have to sign a petition backing the First and Second Amendment of the US Constitution. That's the right to bear arms, the right to freedom of speech. And they have to be registered to vote.
In the last week, of course, there have been objections through the courts about this election giveaway. The local DA in Philadelphia, he's saying it's an illegal lottery designed to influence the election. It's currently working its way through the courts, but given the timing, that it's not going to impact the election. And when you saw Musk on stage, Mark, what was the thrust of what he was saying?
So,
You know, he's not an orator. He's not very articulate. And he sort of said, well, yeah, hi, as he sort of arrived. There was no planned speech, and he didn't really have a great deal to say, except pointing out the obvious that this was an election that is like no other and is on a knife edge. He was encouraging people to vote early, which is also interesting because for many years, Donald Trump's central point has been that voting early is the root of all fraud. And now suddenly that he's busy telling everyone that they should vote early because they've realized that every vote counts whenever it's cast. And then the conversation meandered in a kind of similar way to the way Donald Trump's speeches meander, although he's now taken that and calling it weaving. He says he's intentionally weaving around different subjects. Well, Elon Musk did a lot of his own weaving. There was chat about aliens, whether they exist. There was questions about when he will land on Mars. There was a lot of stuff about how great Cybertrucks are. But within that, as I say, there were some really serious questions from the audience about how Elon Musk thinks he can overhaul and streamline government. And
my question surrounds government and efficiency. What would be your plan to make government more efficient?
Yeah. Well, so I think where would you start with government efficiency? It's kind of like being in a room where the entire room has targets. And so you can shoot in any direction and not miss. It's possible because in every direction is a target. So it's no miss possibility. Now we do have a fundamental issue, which is that the government is spending far more than it brings in. And the reality is that all government spending is actually taxation. All government spending is taxation. Right. Sometimes people think some of it is taxation and some of it's not. But it's all taxation, because the part that is not covered by tax revenue becomes inflation. So we have to reduce government spending.
Reforming government was like walking into a room with targets everywhere. You can shoot wherever you like and you'll hit one because there's so much reform that can take place in government. So it was a meandering conversation, but at the heart of it, I thought actually some interesting discussion about the future of government, the future of America.
Yep, the question, what's in it for Trump? What's in it for Musk? Well, that's us coming to the end of part one. We did promise you we would reveal the identity of the Sky News broadcaster icon who played for Nottingham Forest. Mark, you know the answer to this, yeah?
Well, I think I do, but I've been worrying that maybe I've actually got my...
Doubting yourself.
I think it is one Alex Crawford.
Alex Crawford, absolutely right. She played for Nottingham Forest ladies. I just texted her before I came on, actually. I said, so what position were you? Centre midfield, she said. I said, I had you done as more of a goal scorer. I did that too, she replied. Never in doubt, Alex. Never in doubt. Okay, well, let's take a break. In a minute, we'll be heading out onto the streets of Washington, D.C. and to the women's rally. And Cordy, you've been digging a little deeper into just how important gender is going to be in deciding this election. Welcome back to USA 2024 on the road. As we were saying before the break, there is a real gender divide in the United States. Time and again, polling has shown that women are backing Kamala Harris and men are backing Donald Trump. That's sound from the streets of Washington, D.C. this weekend. It's the Women's March. That happens at this time every year in D.C. But right now, it's happening, of course, amidst the prospect of the first woman becoming U.S. president. Our colleague, U.S. correspondent Martha Kelner, she's not here with us because she's out there with them.
I'm in Freedom Plaza in Washington, D.C. ahead of the Women's March. People gathering here before setting off on a walk to the White House. These women's marches are taking place across the country today in cities like Chicago, Boston, Sacramento on the West Coast. But this is the biggest one. Organisers say they're expecting 5,000 to 10,000 people to take part in this march. And there are merchandise stalls. There's a man selling, cut price actually, black T-shirts with white writing on. A woman's place is in the White House. The lady I'm standing next to is wearing a Ruth Bader Ginsburg T-shirt. Lots of signs saying, "We won't go back, our bodies, our freedom, women's rights, human rights." There is a small counter-protest, a group of Christian nationalists. They've got signs saying, "Judgment is coming, pick up a Bible and stop killing babies." But they are outnumbered heavily by people supporting women's rights and particularly reproductive rights here. So we'll set off for the White House in around half an hour's time. I'm joined actually by three first-time voters, Emma, Ellie and Grace. Why are you here today?
I'm here today because as a woman, it's my job to show up and show out and support my fellow women.
And there's been a lot of discussion, hasn't there, about the role that Gen Z can play in this election. Do you believe that young voters are going to turn out? And if they do, are they voting for Kamala Harris or are they voting for Donald Trump?
I think a lot of young voters are going to turn out, especially like Kamala Harris's TikTok campaign. Her Kamala HQ is popping off always. She's always doing a great job there. I really do think young voters are going to turn out. I think it's going to be a mix. The election's super close. We're in D.C., so I think a lot of people around here are going to be voting for Kamala. We vote blue here. But I think in other states it might be the other way around. A little nervous, but I think Gen Z will show up.
Children of disobedience. The Bible says, be ye therefore not partakers with them. Oh yeah, the Bible says, let no man deceive you. For this comes the wrath of God.
This march has just begun moving from Freedom Square in the centre of Washington, D.C., along Pennsylvania Avenue towards the White House. And the very first one of these marches, the inaugural one, happened in January 2017. It was the day after Donald Trump's inauguration. And the message that organisers say they want to land this time round is we're not going back. It's a statement which is echoed by Team Harris. They've made abortion, the battle around reproductive rights, a centre stone of their campaign. They know that in places like Washington, D.C., they're going to vote overwhelmingly Democrat blue, but they hope the message around women's rights, around healthcare, abortion healthcare access will reverberate in those swing states. They're hoping that swing voters, apathetic voters, independent voters can be moved to go to the polls by the messaging around abortion. Why have you come here today?
Well, I'm here because I'm supporting the Harris-Walz ticket. I think it's really important to defeat Trump. But I'm also here because, for me, my number one issue is choice. I am 63. I was born in 1960. Roe passed in 1973. I have not had one day of fertility in my life that it wasn't an option for me to make a choice about how my future went. And it's appalling to me that my daughter, my daughter-in-law, my granddaughter, and any other young girls and young women that I love and that really have autonomy do not have the same choices I had that many years ago.
Cordy, you're down in the swing states of Georgia for the run-up to the election. It narrowly went to Biden back in 2020. There were just over 11,000 votes in it 4 years ago. It is looking tight this time again. Both parties targeting key demographics: the black vote, Hispanic vote, Arab American vote, and of course, the female vote. Cordy, you've been investigating whether or not women in Georgia turning out for Harris could keep the state blue.
That's right. And it's been a fascinating time here because this is an election where I think gender is playing very heavily. It could be potentially one of the defining issues of this election. And as you say, Georgia was very narrowly won by Joe Biden back in 2020. And the hope from Kamala Harris is that she'll be able to build on that. But she will need a vast amount of women behind her in order to do that. We've spent time in Atlanta in Georgia, and we went to a baby pantry. This is a place where young mothers go to pick up free baby supplies. Many people we met actually spoke about the economy, about their perception that times are tough, inflation, the cost of groceries. But I think more than anything, they spoke about reproductive rights and their concerns about those being cut, particularly in a state like Georgia.
Every labor is not going to be the same. Everything that you go through, everything that you feel, it's not.
Yeah. Well, let's ask, if we can start by asking S, like, what are the issues that matter to you this election? The reproductive rights,
education, those were major key points for me that I just couldn't. I said, I'm going early to make sure my vote counts and that it's done and it's completed and it's in there.
So who did you vote for?
I voted for Kamala. I feel like to judge her based on Joe Biden would have been wrong. Give her a shot. Give her a chance.
Do you think America's ready for a female president?
Do I think we're ready for a woman? Of course. I think we've had women in all types of jobs. We have women who are mechanics. They can fix a car better than a man. We've had women pilots. Everything that has been dominated by the male industry, a woman has mastered somewhere. We have women CEOs. They run these companies. We've come a long way. So do I think we're ready? Absolutely. This is the perfect time.
Do you feel like enough women will feel strongly this time round that it will tip the balance for Kamala?
I think it's strong. Like, because, I mean, as I look at people and I've rode by a few of the events that they were holding. And when I tell you, I was actually very impressed with what I seen. Like, everybody was out there. It didn't matter. Black, white, candy stripe. Everybody was there. Everybody is ready to listen to what she has to say. We're taking in what she has to say, which I voted for Kamala too as well. But we're taking in what she has to say, and we're agreeing with it, you know? And I'm not like, oh, I'm going to agree with her because she's a woman. It doesn't have anything to do with that. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at it as in, what can she do for us? You know?
What's your name?
Indigo.
Indigo.
I'm
Cordy. Nice to meet you, Indigo.
Indigo Sky.
Indigo
My
Sky.
oldest is Isabella.
Wow, you have some great names. Let's talk about, I mean, who are you voting for this year?
I'm voting for Trump.
Okay, why?
Honestly, he got me with like the border control and also with the inflation because groceries and gas prices are going really high and he's promising that he would lower them. Do I believe him? No.
You've had 4 years of him previously. Did you like what you saw?
No.
No, and yet you're willing to turn out for him this
I
time.
know, it's so sad, right? But yeah.
Why him over her?
Why him over her? I think it's because it's the thing of like me being a little bit more familiar with him. If we get her in office, right, she's promised us a lot of good things and she could bring change to the world, right? I do believe that. But with him, it's just like, it's never a dull moment with Trump.
So you like the excitement?
I do. If I do, it's so sad.
The women we met, you know, had nuanced opinions on Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, neither perfect candidates for them. You had two black women saying that Kamala Harris's presidency is important for them, the symbolism of it, the hope, what they felt she would do for education, for their reproductive rights. But we also, you know, heard from the Trump supporters as well. And I think that's what's so fascinating about this election, to see how it plays out politically, because the presumption is that there is going to be vast swathes of Democratic voters, and particularly young Democrats, who will get behind this issue of reproductive rights. But what we wanted to try and investigate was how many Republicans had felt so exercised by it that actually they might shift their allegiance. You know, back in 2016, we'd always talk about the shy Trump voter, people secretly backing him but didn't want to admit it publicly. There was a bit of a sense we found here in Georgia from people who typically vote Republican, aren't necessarily going to admit to family and friends that they're going to back Kamala Harris. But as women, they feel so strongly that they need to try and fight for access to abortion that actually they may well turn out for the Democrats. So that's a really interesting dynamic that could play in Kamala Harris's favor.
Yeah, come on in. This is our little home for a while now. Been living here. No, not actually. Almost. Hello, morning. Oh, exciting. Thank you.
We did speak to one Democratic US Representative, Maura Kelner. Now, she is competing in a race she won't win. She has very little chance, but she did say on the doorstep that she is meeting Republicans who actually feel this time that they're going to have to vote differently, because it's this kind of crisis moment for women, and that they feel like decisions are being made about their bodies by government, and they don't want to see that happen.
I am really hoping it is, because, you know, when I talk to the women, when I'm out and about, they don't tell me necessarily that they're Republican or Democrat, but they are telling me that this is important to them. Yeah, and so I really think we have a good chance.
Do you think there will be the kind of surge in female voters that the Democrats need to win?
I do believe that. You know, what we're seeing because of the overturn of Roe v. Wade, that I think was critical, because we are seeing what's happening to women, and it's almost like we're an afterthought, and people are going to tell us what we can and can't do. And it's like women are like, no, we've had enough. We know how far we've come, what we had to fight for, and as the saying goes, we're not going back.
You have to win over Republican women as well as Democrats. Do you think you're achieving that?
I do, because I have talked to Republican women that have told me this is extremely important for them. And then the other thing is, because we've had the early voting, I've actually got text messages and I've got emails from actual Republicans that had said, I just want you to know I have voted for you. And the other thing is, I've got a lot of Democrats that said, look, my grandfather, my father, my mother, they are staunch Republicans. You are the first Democrat they have ever voted for. My district and in America overall, we have a huge female population. And I believe this is enough to gather them to come to the polls, because there's so much at stake, especially for them. This is our moment, this is our time, and Kamala is going to be the next president.
So polling is quite interesting at the moment, if indeed we can confidently talk about the polls. But it suggests 55% of women here at least say that they're supporting Harris. That could be enough to swing the vote. I think what appears to be clear is that she potentially has a problem with male voters, and we certainly got that sense here in Georgia. And whilst she has young female voters, and particularly African American voters, what she does have an issue with is white women voters. You'll remember back in 2016, more came out for Donald Trump than they did for Hillary Clinton, and that history could repeat itself. Tommy, who are you voting for?
Donald Trump.
Why?
The economy is number one. I actually voted for Biden the first time. I voted for Hillary. I campaigned against Trump 4 years ago. I think it was 1 year into Biden's presidency where I was like, I think I messed up.
I voted for Donald Trump. I think the thing with Kamala, and what I've really been concerned with this entire time, is that she has run on mainly with abortion. But that's not just the only reason why I would not vote for her. We've got more immigrants that have moved into this country than ever before, that are being given all kinds of just the welcome mat laid out for them, but our VA and our veterans are struggling to even get health care at a timely fashion, because everything has gotten exponentially more expensive over the last 4 and 5 years.
Who did you vote for?
Harris.
Why?
I can't do another 4 years of crazy. It's too much division and too much hate. It just did too much for me. So that's what I see. And the abortion ban, I have 3 girls. You only see one of them here. I can't deal with it.
Do you worry that there are other male voters that don't seem to be getting behind her?
Yes, but that's their own choice. I mean, I think there's some misogyny involved. But what are you going to do, right? Women can lead. Women have proven to be strong leaders, and I can't speak for them.
I voted for President Trump.
You did?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
He is not husband material, nor could he ever be a minister, but I would choose a leader in this role much like I would choose a heart surgeon. He is such an ego. It's ridiculous. He's not likable, but then he says what a lot of people are thinking, and I think that he would be an advocate for us. We have trouble financially, and we have some misguided decisions globally. And I think that we can continue to be global citizens. But
there's no kind of guarantee that putting reproductive issues at the top of the agenda will necessarily translate into this mass turnout across all women for her, but that's what she's hoping for.
I think Another really interesting thing linked to all this is first-time voters, people who are just 18, 19. They were young teenagers when Donald Trump was last president. So what are their memories of him? What are their reflections of that time? But I think that'll be interesting to see if there's any trend that emerges among young men or young women, particularly. Georgia, I was there where you are, Cordy, a few months ago on a basketball court in Columbus, so a couple of hours southwest of where you are in Atlanta. Columbus is quite a Democrat city, but on the basketball court, young black first-time voters who were enthusiastic about Trump. It's the sort of black bro vote. They kind of see him as kind of, he says he speaks his mind, he's quite cool, maybe they'll give him a shot. And they don't necessarily have any deep reflections of what he was like first time around.
And that black bro vote, Cordy, Republicans are targeting that, yeah?
Yeah, I think we've seen a change in strategy from the Trump campaign this time. They're encouraging people to vote early in Georgia, but they are also going after the African American vote in the way they haven't historically. This time round, we're seeing Donald Trump, holding different events, trying to reach out to the black community. And on the local level here, we were invited by a Republican candidate, John Selverson, to this bar in a very hipster, very Democrat area, which he stands a very little chance of winning. He was actually DJing there. His DJ name is Bongo, if you can believe it. Apparently he plays the bongo drums. And he talked about this, like trying to reach out to people.
You know the number one thing that my people say to me? They're like, I'm going to vote for you. I'm like, wait a second. I'm white. I'm a Republican. Why would you? I haven't even told you what I'm for yet. So they're like, I don't care. You're here. It means a lot just to show up. It's like, even if they don't go to the rally, they're like, well, he paid us the respect. He's in our hood. He showed up.
What about women? Do you find you have a problem with women on the doorstep?
I think he makes women angry because he sounds like the typical guy, barking at the wife or something, or snapping some little smart answer, and so women get turned off by that. And some of them rise above it. A lot of them rise above it and say that's just a man being an idiot. And they rise above it, but they look at the bones of what his message is instead of the idiosyncrasies of him making an off-color remark or saying something dumb.
Do you think that threatens, though, his chances in Georgia? How many women he's alienating?
I think it could affect 5 to 10% of the female population get turned off.
So that's his calculation. They don't think that they're going to win the black vote in Georgia, but they believe if they can do just enough to chip away at Kamala Harris's appeal, then they could potentially win Georgia.
I just can't wait to discover which of the demographics becomes the prevailing story of the night. Is it the young black vote? Is it young men more generally who perhaps are uneasy with wokeness? Is it the Arab American community in Michigan and to a lesser extent in Arizona? Maybe. Is it the women of America? I mean, there are so many stories that could emerge.
And we know, don't we, from 2020, I think it was 10 million more women than men voted. And that may well, repeat this time round, but we can't presume from that that's a Kamala Harris victory.
I think it will come down to variations within the demographics. I think that the notion that demographic equals identity isn't quite right. Studies have shown that. Political campaigns, it's a mistake they often make. They look at a particular demographic. It simplifies their strategy to break down a group of voters into types, into stereotypes, actually. But as we've seen, and we are reminded of by polling in this election and our own experience of speaking to people, it's far more three-dimensional than that.
It is, but at the same time, because of the tight nature of these swing states, it only takes a shift by a small number of Arab Americans in Michigan, black voters in Georgia, young women somewhere. It only takes a small shift that can turn everything. And I think that's what's so fascinating.
Well, not long now until we find out how it all impacts on the future of this country and indeed the free world. 2 days left until polling day. Mark, Cordy, what are your plans for the final push?
Well, I'm here in Washington, James. I'm going to be here through election night in the studio, trying to make sense of what it all means. And then when the sun comes up on Wednesday morning, I don't think we'll have a result, but let's see. And I'll head to wherever we think it's going to be interesting.
What about you, Cordy?
We're going to be in Georgia, crisscrossing around, trying to see if we'll get an early vote or not. It was a very contentious one, obviously, 4 years ago. So, yeah, potentially all of us in it for the long run, right? Stamina key. I've got a vat of coffee. That's how I'm preparing for this election.
A vat of coffee for the long run, getting longer. Alongside Trump, I'm heading down to Florida. That's where I'll be on election night, which of course means I'll miss the cavalry arriving, all the Sky News, all the beautiful people, Mark Austin, Yalda Hakim, etc., descending on the bureau. And Yalda, of course, I was with Yalda broadcasting Donald Trump's convictions. Some days later, my daughter said to me, you see that Yalda Hakim? Speaks Asquilian languages, is very clever, top journalist. And I said, well, yeah, I was with Yalda Hakim just a couple of days ago on telly all day. And she said, you know Yalda Hakim? And I said, well, Emily, what do you think I do for a living? So there you go. Yalda Hakim, Mark Austin, Cordelia Lynch, Mark Stone on election night, Sky News. Make sure you don't miss it. That wraps it up for today on our podcast. But join us again for USA 2024 on the road. See you tomorrow.